Okay, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I am Hallie Crawford, certified career coach and founder of HallieCrawford.com. We are recording this webinar today, 3 Keys to Unlock Your Strategic Career Plan. So just as a quick reminder, you will be receiving the audio recording afterwards, which will include the audio as well as the visual, the recording of the slides also. First of all, I wanted to thank you all for your patience. I know that we had to reschedule from last week. It sounds kind of silly, but my son and I were stung by a bunch of yellow jackets actually last week, and we had kind of a bad reaction on the same day I was supposed to hold the webinar. So that was the family emergency, and we are doing better. And again, just appreciate your patience with rescheduling. I'm very excited to be here with you today. So we are going to be talking about the 3 keys to unlock your strategic career plan, okay? And just as a quick reminder, all of you are on mute just because that's easier to kind of manage the process and everything else. If you do have questions, I am happy to schedule a quick strategy session with any of you afterwards to answer any specific questions that you have about creating your strategic career plan, especially if your situation is unique. And as a quick reminder, you will get a recording of this so you can have that for your notes so that you don't feel like you have to be frantically taking notes. So let me just share this with you real quick, just as a reminder, your phones are muted. If you want to schedule a time to chat with me to address any questions that you have during or after the presentation, because I focused the 30 minutes that we have together on giving you as much information as possible, and we probably will not have time for questions at the end, please just feel free to email us at admin@HallieCrawford.com. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have either right away or if it's in the next few weeks as you're starting to work on this and you want to ask some questions about how you're progressing with the whole process. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into our content for today. The first thing I wanted to share with you is that I totally understand the importance and also the challenges of career management and being proactive about this. And I say that because I was not always very proactive about my career management. When I first started my coaching business, it was over 18 years ago. And I know some of you might be like, gosh, she sounds like she's 20 or something. I'm actually 46 and was fortunate enough to start my business at an early age when I was able to, take a little bit more of a risk. But at the time also, because I wasn't as experienced and not at all actually with starting a business, I had no idea what I was doing. And it took me several years to understand how important it was to manage not just my business, but as part of that, how I wanted my career in terms of or related to my business, how I wanted that to unfold over time, okay? So I don't understand this. It's not just because, we work with clients on this all the time, and we've worked with, obviously, thousands of people across the globe over doing this for 18 years, but also because I understand how difficult and important it can be firsthand because of having to go through this myself. If any of you, just by the way, just really quickly here as we progress and continue, if any of you cannot see my screen, please just drop a note to me in the chat box. It's under the More. There's 3 dots on the far right of your Zoom dashboard, and under More, there's a chat. So let me know if you're having any issues with the audio or the visual, just to make sure everybody can see everything. So in career management is incredibly important, and I understand, like I said, firsthand how important it can be and how tough it can be sometimes as well. Here's our agenda for today. We want to talk about the 3 keys. The first key is going to be how to define your career aspirations. That's the first thing that you need to do, and we're going to talk about how you can begin to do that for yourself. Key number 2 is to build and develop your personal brand. And key number 3 is to develop a plan and implement it. We're going to talk about each of those today. I'm going to give you advice about each one of those and what you need to do to get started on each of those for yourself. So here's the deal with career management in general. I gave you all my example just a minute ago. I feel like I would at least be 5 years ahead of where I am now in terms of my business if I had understood how important it was to really manage my career effectively earlier on. Jobs are, or our careers are, one of our, if not our best asset. And we have to treat our careers that way. So that's why I'm really glad you guys are on the call today, because obviously, at least to a certain extent, you understand how important this is. Whether it's right sizing, whether we need to relocate for family reasons or another reason, whether we want to move on to another organization or move up, it's critically important to treat our careers as our best asset. It's just like your stock portfolio, the same type of thing. If you happen to invest in anything or real estate, whatever it is, you have to invest in your career as well, because you are one of, if not your best asset over time. And part of the reason why it's so important to manage your career effectively and look at the long term is because today the average person changes jobs between 10 to 15 times. The average in general is about 11 job changes. This is a lot of changes over time. So you have to remain fulfilled in your career and feel like you're enjoying what you're doing, at least to a certain extent. That's what we are all about. You have to feel challenged and feel like you're going to be challenged in the long run as well. And we also want you to remain marketable for that next position, because you never know what's going to happen where you may need to look for something else, okay? So key number one, let's talk about that one first, and it's to define your career aspirations. So some basic guidelines I wanted to share with you all first for your strategic career plan is we want you to look at 1 year out, 3 year out, and 5 years out, okay? That's a basic timeline that we use with our clients, or the time frames. Start at 5 years out and work backwards from there. Where do you want to be in 5 years? And work backwards. We also want you to develop a vision as well as a plan. A plan is critically important because that's your tangible action steps and your goals that you want to achieve and the action steps you need to take to get there. However, we also want our clients, whether they create the vision using a vision board or they do it by journaling, whatever works best for them, we want you to have a feeling attached to where you want to be in your career in 5 years, because studies show that when you attach emotion and enthusiasm and any sort of emotion that's positive to your strategic career plan, to a plan that you have, it is much more likely to happen, and that will help you remain enthusiastic and motivated towards reaching that plan. Finally, another basic guideline for your strategic career plan is we want you to check and update it at least quarterly. So you need to have it somewhere, ideally like in an Excel spreadsheet that's on your desktop, that you can review and look at and update on a consistent basis and have it be easy for you to update, easy to access. So here are 3 key components to help you define what your long-term goal is and start to develop your plan. You need to understand who are you as a professional, where are you going as a professional, and how will you get there, okay? So let's talk about who you are first. So this is the ideal career model on the screen here that we use with all of our clients to help them determine what their ideal career is and help them move towards it and make it happen. The pieces of the model here that have arrows on them, these are the pieces that we want you to be focused on. You need to be thinking about who are you as a professional in terms of your values. What are your career values? What are you passionate or enthusiastic about career-wise and in terms of the tasks that you want to perform? What are the interests that you have that you want to, parlay into part of your work, your daily work life? Then you also want to look at experience, education, and strengths, these 3 pieces of the model here, to understand what you bring to the table. What is your brand and what is the value you bring? What are your top 5 strengths? Take the Strengths Finder assessment, strengthsfinder.com. If you feel like you don't know what your top strengths are, this assessment helps you enormously, not just understand what those strengths are, but how to articulate them to other people and to prospective employers. Take a look at your education and how has that shaped who you are as a professional. What is your brand in terms of where you went to college? And also, does your degree matter to what you're doing? Is it relevant? If it doesn't, that's okay. If it's more about some of the classes that you took in college, you want to consider past education as well as anything that you've done after college as well. You want to look at your past experience and how that shapes who you are as a professional. What are you really good at because of your past experience? And then finally, everyone, take a look at personality here. We don't want you to forget that personality type is also part of who you are as a professional to help you determine where you're going in terms of the right career path for you. If you're more introverted, you need to be in a more introverted role and at an organization that gives you time and space to have that downtime and alone time for yourself. So personality type is also part of how you would discuss or think about your strengths as well. For example, if you're more extroverted or if you just are a natural leader, what does that mean in terms of the type of role that you should be in, and what are the strengths relevant? What are your leadership strengths that you bring to the table? So these are the pieces that you want to start to think about for yourself to get really grounded. Who am I as a professional? As part of this, what does that mean I should be going for goal-wise in terms of my career long-term? When you think about where you are going, you want to then look at all of the other pieces of the model. So have the other pieces kind of drop into place for yourself to determine the right career path for you long-term, whatever your next goal should be. I'll walk you through this for just a moment here. You want to think long-term about, gosh, in 5 years, what would be the most fulfilling thing for me to be doing career-wise? What are my career values? And how does that help me determine, what I want to be doing in the long run in terms of tasks and the right work environment also. You want to also think about what are your top 5 enjoyable tasks or the tasks that you've performed in the past that have been the most enjoyable for you career-wise. Add those to your career model as well. So we've got values over here in fulfillment, top 5 enjoyable tasks in the enjoyment section. Then again, as we said, you want to determine what your strengths are and how you want to be leveraging those in the long run. Are there strengths that you're leveraging now that, you feel like you want to tone down a little bit and build up some other strengths? And if you're doing something now that you don't enjoy quite as much and you want to build up some of those other strengths and leverage them more. Think about education and how that shapes what you want to be doing in the next 5 years. I'll tell you all that when I was thinking about becoming a coach and brainstorming my different career ideas, I started to remember that the classes that I attended and took at Vanderbilt that I enjoyed the most were my interpersonal communication and psychology classes, which helped me understand that, I wanted to help people grow and achieve specific goals in some way, shape, or form. But for example, I knew, I didn't want to be a therapist. I wanted to work with people on their careers because I was that person who was very lost in her career in the early days for me. Then you look at your past experience, like we talked about. What are the experiences that you've had work-wise so far that you've enjoyed the most? Those are the ones that you want to keep going and you want to leverage in the long run. Personality type, we talked about that one already as well, but you want to consider that. What is the right work environment for you? If you take a look at personality and work environment, they interplay enormously. Your personality type not just influences, or it doesn't just influence the type of role that you want to be in, but it also should influence the type of work environment that's best for you. And then obviously in the next 5 years, where do you want to be compensation-wise? Compensation is the last piece of the model, everyone, not because it's the least important, but because we always want people to start with what would be rewarding and fulfilling to them first. That's why that's at the very beginning of the model on the bottom right, because if they begin with, I would be good at this and I would get paid well, then they leave out these other really important elements of the career model, like their personality type, for example, and fulfillment. And if you are not enjoying what you do in the long run, you are not going to stick with it, and it's not going to be fulfilling and rewarding for you enough to kind of go through the ups and downs that we will all have in terms of our career. It's just natural. And when you are leveraging or honoring your career values on a regular basis at your job, you'll be able to kind of get through those ups and downs, and it will help your motivation enormously. So the next piece we need to take a look at is how will you get there? So if you take a look at the model just, for another second here, after you have determined who you are as a professional and started to think about, okay, where do I want to be in the next 5 years, using this model as a checklist, you can also use the model in terms of strengths, education, and experience to help you define how do I need to get there, or how can I get there? What kind of training and experience do I need? What are the critical roles that I need to have to get to where I want to be along the way? This is where a mentor in your industry or within your organization can help you enormously make those decisions and answer those questions, okay? Do I need to stay or go at my current job or at my current organization? Is it a fit for me based on the career model that I just showed you a second ago? What's the support and accountability that you need to have in place? This is a critical piece to making your strategic career plan a reality. Figure out where you can get the support and the accountability that you need to move forward and take action on the steps that you've laid out. You want to make sure all along the way that you're leveraging and expanding your network, because when it comes to attend a networking event and you need a buddy there to help kind of introduce you to people, or, kind of a mentor there, or whether it's finding a mentor just for your career or a new job, expanding and keeping your network fresh and up to date is a critical piece to helping you or enabling you to implement and make your strategic career plan a reality. And then finally, not to be negative, everyone, but if you take a look at this slide here, you also want to understand what your blocks to success might be. And we want you to look at those up front right away, because you can talk all day long about, okay, these are the action steps I need to take in the next year to get closer to my 5-year goal. But if these blocks of whether it's fear, procrastination, negative thinking, whatever goes on for you, if these are going to stay in place, then you're never going to achieve your goals. So you absolutely need to write out as well, everyone, what your typical blocks to success are professionally for you. Write them down within your strategic career plan and have a plan to manage around those so that you make sure that you achieve your goals, okay? So include your obstacles as well, again, so that you have a plan to manage around it so you can make this happen. So key number 2, let's talk about this next step here, is to build your personal brand. So as part of moving towards your long-term 5-year goals, you have to build your brand over time, because it will make any action steps that you need and want to take a lot easier if you're able to do that, because people will know who you are, they'll understand who you are as a professional and what you bring to the table. So here's the deal with your brand. Your brand represents the value that you can deliver to your clients, your customers, your employees, and your coworkers, okay? This doesn't mean just flat out self-promotion and bragging, okay? You do, and usually I would say that the majority of professionals do need to be better at promoting themselves in the right way, okay? Because most of us are taught so much to be humble, as kids and through society and everything else, that we tend not to be as good at self-promotion as we should be. But think about it in terms of the value you create, everyone, and the results that you provide. And that's the difference between just flat out, okay, I'm good at this, this, and this. Well, that's important. It's important to communicate to people what your strengths are, absolutely. But it's critically important to follow that up with what's the value and the results that you're able to provide. The reason why we find branding is so critically important is because less than 15% of professionals truly have a very good or well-defined personal brand, and less than 5% of them are living it consistently. Branding is something that we definitely need to do better at. So here's how we start to understand and build your personal brands. The first thing that you want to do is on this next slide here, you want to do a quick self-assessment. We talked about values and passion already. So we want you to define and start to think about and understand what your career values are and how that leads to your brand. Couple that with what you're passionate about. If the word passion is too strong for you, it can just be, why you enjoy and gain satisfaction or a sense of achievement out of the job that you do and your career path. Then you want to take a look at your strengths, education, and experience, like we talked about, and you want to incorporate those pieces, the strengths and past education and experience that you want to leverage, everyone. Anything that you don't want to leverage anymore, you leave it to the side, okay? Only focus on the things that you truly want to leverage going forward. And then finally, talk as well in your brand about your personality type. Are you more of a leader or a follower? Are you more of a big picture thinker or a detail-oriented person, for example, who asks the right questions to make sure that you are aware of, or an organization is aware of, any obstacles that may come their way? So add your personality type and what we would call those intangible or those soft skills into the mix in terms of your personal brand as well. They are just as valid. You're a good team player. You are, like we said, big picture or detail oriented. You're more strategic, or you're more of an implementer and, say, a project manager. You want to keep in mind those personality elements as well. One of the things that we would recommend that you consider as well to determine or understand what your brand is the elements of this leadership wheel. So we use this a lot in our different presentations. This leadership wheel is from Development Dimensions International. It's a very highly regarded, it's been around for a long time. It's a management consulting organization. These are the 10 leadership strengths that they assert and believe are important and critical in today's leaders, okay? So one of the things we would advise you to do is to rank yourself in each of these areas on a scale of 1 to 10 to determine not just where you need to make some improvements, but to understand what your leadership strengths are. So what are your top 3 leadership strengths that you can add to and place into your personal brand as well when you're talking with people and developing that document? Next, we want you to help you understand and build out your personal brand. We highly recommend that you interview at least 3 people to find out from them, what are your top 3 strengths? What do you do better than anyone else they know? And when they think of you, what 3 adjectives come to mind? I recommend that you interview 3 people, male and female, and people in your personal life, but also in your professional life, because they can see you in different roles and in different ways, and different strengths may come out. But interview other people to understand what your current brand is as well. Does it mesh with what you want? And what are some kind of blind spots that you may not realize that, gosh, I do this really well, but I took it for granted, for example, because I just assumed everyone was good at this because it was so easy for me. We tend to discount what comes naturally to us. So interviewing other people is enormously helpful to help you really clearly understand what your current brand is, okay? And finally, to develop your brand positioning statement, kind of to finalize your branding statement when you've gotten all of these components together, the pieces that you want to include are, who do you serve? So who is the audience, clients, whoever it is that you serve in terms of your work, and who you want to be serving in the long run in the next 5 years. What makes you unique and stand out from other professionals that would be doing the same thing? And finally, why should someone believe you when you're talking with them, providing your branding statement or your elevator speech? Why should they believe you? What are the results that you have achieved so far that would tell them that you can achieve these results in the next 5 years as well? Okay? So let's take a look at this next slide here. This is our last key. Key number 3 to developing your strategic career plan is to develop a plan, obviously. Hello. So we find that a lot of people will get this other work done that we just talked about, but then they'll be fearful or they'll procrastinate about developing the plan. They might be uncertain about their direction, so they're hesitant because of that. This is where, if that's the case for you, if you're not sure about your direction, please contact us to talk to us about a session or 2 of career coaching so we can help you get clear on what your direction is in the long run. We showed you the career model at the beginning. You'll get the recording of this, so you will have that. By the way, if anyone would like a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, don't hesitate to email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. We'd be happy to share that with you as well. But make sure that if you, for any reason, are not beginning to develop your plan, that you understand what those obstacles are getting in your way of doing so, and get support so that you make it happen. These are the elements that you want to incorporate into your plan here. If you take a look at this next slide, you want to obviously be clear on your long-term direction. You want to understand along the way how you can market your skills so that you show people why you are capable of achieving that 5-year career goal and making that happen. Building your brand like we talked about. Develop a solid portfolio of career-enhancing experiences and skills. We talked about that as well. But part of marketing your skills and some of the action steps you're going to need to take, you're going to need to take some risks to make your strategic career plan a reality. So make sure that you incorporate those into your plan. Actively seek opportunities across your organization or even outside your organization to open up multiple career path options for you. Make sure along the way that you're also building your transferable skills. And finally, you want to think about the evolution of your career, obviously, over time. This is where we talked about where do you want to be in 5 years and work backwards. You want to make sure as much as possible, too, like we talked about, you want to update your strategic career plan at least quarterly so that you're optimizing the career life fit, meaning that as your life or personal values change over time, you are optimizing your career to fit what those values are, because your decisions that you want to make in the next 5 years are going to depend also on what your personal life looks like as well and where you want things to be. Okay, so as we come to the close for today, please go ahead for me and get out a pen and paper or write on your computer, whatever is best for you. I want you all to write down one action step that you will take this week, probably after the holiday, and if that's the case, that's fine. It could be anything from, gosh, while I'm on vacation for the 4th, I want to interview informally some friends and family members about what my strengths are and what my brand is. It could be that I want to start updating my resume so that I understand where I stand now before I begin thinking about where I want to be in 5 years, okay? Another action step could be, and I'll just show you all this really quickly so it's up here before we go. It could be I want to get the strategic career template from Hallie. So we have a strategic career plan template. It's an Excel spreadsheet that is pre-filled out to help you begin to write out your strategic career plan. And we do offer coaching around that strategic career plan as well. Please feel free to email us at admin@HallieCrawford.com for a copy of this tool. It's free. And as I said earlier, if anyone would like a complimentary career strategy session, I'd be happy to schedule that with you for a few minutes. Just email us at admin@HallieCrawford.com to schedule that as well, okay? So I want to leave you all before we close for today. When you're thinking about your action steps and when you're thinking about the long run and that, 5-year goal, I get that it may feel, gosh, like huge and unattainable. Remember that the greatest risk in life is not taking one. Number one, Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't have to achieve it tomorrow. It's a 5-year plan. It's like that for a reason. Trust yourself that you will figure it out as you go. That's what I did, and that's what our clients do, okay? And there will be some risks that you have to take along the way. You'll have to push yourself outside your comfort zone. It's absolutely worth it, because remember, without risk, there's no reward. So if at any time you are feeling freaked out about any of your action steps after you lay them out in your strategic career plan, remember this quote: the greatest risk in life is not taking one. Do you want to say at the end of your life to your kids, grandkids, etc., that you tried even if you failed? Or do you want to say that you didn't try at all? We all know the answer. You want to be able to say that you tried and pushed yourself outside your comfort zone to move towards what you wanted. We are at time for today, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and participation. Greatly appreciate it. Please feel free again to email us at admin@HallieCrawford.com if you would like a copy of our strategic career plan template in Excel. the complimentary career strategy session, and if you would like a copy of the PowerPoint slides. Have a great 4th of July, everyone, and enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.